Well, here the model is in SketchUp and we're now applying some textures to surfaces in the model. I guess because this is a very steeply sloping courtyard with a couple of meters drop from the top platform here down to the bottom, the next step might be to try and construct some sort of terrain model, and we can apply either an earthy texture to it or maybe even a ground cover texture to it to improve the look and feel of this model when we finally render it. We'll use these sandbox tools over here on the left. Let's float the little toolbox, and I think what we'll do is set a mesh across at that top level, and to do that it's create from scratch. And I think if we run from, say, that point there across in this direction, we'll just need to amble around a little and then go back to here and to there and across to there, and then you can see that the mesh is extending out, and as long as we cover that part of the site, I think we'll do reasonably well. So there's our mesh. What we now need to do is to select the mesh. The selected mesh can be put on its own layer. I want it onto a layer called SketchUp tin for the surface. So let's bring up our entity information, and we're going to move this one to the layer SketchUp tin, and we'll escape from there and unselect. So if I pick the mesh, it's on its own layer. So if I had layer 0 as current, if I click there, the mesh disappears. So now what we want to do is push that mesh down to create a soft and flowing surface within the courtyard area. The next thing I'll do is to select the mesh and right click and make it a component. So we've done that. Now it's on a layer called to SketchUp tin, the mesh, and we'll give it a name. Just call it surface mesh, I think, and it has a definition. It's in group 1. So now we have a mesh which we can edit on its own. So I can say right click and say I'm going to edit the component, and so now we want to push the mesh down in order to make a surface that melds into the cut of this very deep courtyard. So because we made that a component, we can select the component, we can right click and say we're going to edit the component, and you'll notice I've pushed the mesh down, but I've got some areas of the mesh in here where we've got effectively amount of earth against our wall. So we can pick this smooth tool, and you can see the diameter of my smooth is a little too large for what I'm trying to do here, so I'll cut it down to 250, and now we've got a much smaller area, and we can just work on individual elements of the mesh. And you can see by dragging down, see I'm starting to expose the wall more. I'm just doing some fine tuning now, and I've touched up that little area there. So every bit of this area can be just tweaked a little as I'm doing now. Now I'm exposing one of those retaining walls at the back. I can push the mound backwards. So what I've done, of course, is to apply a grass texture to it. So effectively now we've got, let's go back to close the component. So we've got, and I'll take edge style off now. So now I think you can see that things are taking shape. We've got our paved area there, our wooden platform, our wall there. We haven't quite finished this area through here in terms of adjusting that face, but up we go up the steps and there. So we've got some texture mapping going on here, and I've a little more to do, but I'm sure you get the idea. We get all of this done before we put our plants in, because putting the plants in is going to slow the process down considerably.